The morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of Ashford Academy, casting long shadows across the polished marble floors. 15-year-old Maya Chen stood at the entrance of the prestigious private school, her worn canvas sneakers squeaking softly against the pristine surface. She adjusted the straps of her second-hand backpack and took a deep breath, steeling herself for another day. It had been 3 weeks since her father insisted she transfer to Ashford Academy, and every single day felt like walking through a minefield. Maya didn't understand why he'd suddenly decided she needed to attend the most elite school in the city. For years, she'd been perfectly happy at Lincoln Public High, surrounded by friends who didn't care about designer labels or trust funds. But her father had been insistent, almost desperate, in a way that made her mother exchange worried glances with him across the dinner table. "It's time," he'd said simply, and that had been the end of the discussion. Now, as Maya made her way through the corridors lined with oil paintings and trophy cases, she felt the familiar weight of dozens of eyes following her. The other students at Ashford moved in packs, their designer uniforms perfectly tailored, their shoes gleaming like they'd never touched actual pavement. Maya's uniform was regulation, her father had made sure of that, but everything else about her screamed outsider. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. "Nice shoes, scholarship girl," a voice called out from behind her. Maya didn't need to turn around to know it was Victoria Ashford Price, great-granddaughter of the school's founder and undisputed queen of the junior class. "Did you get those from a thrift store, or did someone actually pay money for them?" Laughter rippled through the hallway. Maya kept walking, her face burning, fingers tightening around the straps of her backpack. She'd learned in her first week that responding only made things worse. Victoria thrived on reactions, fed off the discomfort she created in others. "I'm talking to you," Victoria said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. She stepped in front of Maya, blocking her path. 3 of her friends, Brittany, Madison, and Sienna, formed a semicircle around them, their expressions ranging from amused to cruel. "Those shoes are a health hazard. They're probably bringing down the property value of the entire school." Maya finally looked up, meeting Victoria's perfectly lined eyes. "They're just shoes," she said quietly. "They get me from place to place. That's all shoes need to do." "Oh, how philosophical," Brittany sneered, tossing her blonde hair over her shoulder. "Maybe that's what they teach you at public school. Here at Ashford, we have standards." "Standards like bullying someone over footwear?" Maya asked, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. "That seems pretty low." Victoria's eyes narrowed dangerously. She took a step closer, and Maya could smell her expensive perfume, something French and floral that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. "You don't belong here," Victoria hissed. "Everyone knows it. You walk around with your cheap clothes and your humble act, but we all see through it. You're just some charity case who got lucky on a scholarship application." The thing was, Maya wasn't on scholarship. Her father was paying full tuition, she knew because she'd accidentally seen the invoice on his desk one evening. But she'd learned quickly that explaining this would only invite more questions, questions she couldn't answer because she didn't understand the situation herself. Why was her father, who'd always preached the value of staying humble and grounded, suddenly insisting she attend a school where students arrived in chauffeur-driven cars and spent their weekends at country clubs? "I need to get to class," Maya said, trying to step around Victoria. "We're not done here," Victoria snapped, grabbing Maya's arm. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into Maya's skin. "You need to understand your place. Maybe if you're really nice to us, really respectful, we might make this year bearable for you. But first, you need to admit what you are. Say it. Say you're just a poor little scholarship student who doesn't belong at Ashford Academy." The hallway had gone completely silent. Students lined both sides of the corridor, some recording on their phones, others just watching with morbid fascination. Maya felt her heart pounding in her chest, felt the familiar sting of tears threatening to spill over. But she refused to give Victoria the satisfaction. "Let go of me," Maya said, her voice low and steady despite the tremor she felt inside. Make me, Victoria challenged, her grip tightening. Miss Ashford Price, release Miss Chen immediately. The voice cut through the tension like a knife. Mr. Harrison, the school's vice principal, stood at the end of the hallway, his expression thunderous. My office. Now. You three as well. He pointed at Brittany, Madison, and Sienna. Victoria released Maya's arm with a contemptuous shove. This isn't over, she whispered, before turning and walking toward Mr. Harrison with the confident stride of someone who knew she'd face no real consequences. Her father was on the board of directors. Nothing ever really stuck to Victoria Ashford Price. Maya stood in the empty hallway, watching the crowd disperse, feeling more alone than she'd ever felt in her life. She looked down at her scuffed canvas sneakers, the ones she'd had since freshman year, the ones that were comfortable and practical and had carried her through countless adventures with her old friends. They were just shoes. But in this world, they might as well have been a scarlet letter. The rest of the day passed in a blur of whispered conversations and pointed stares. Maya sat through calculus, chemistry, and English literature, barely registering what the teachers were saying. Her arm still bore the faint red marks from Victoria's nails, a physical reminder of the morning's humiliation. She kept her phone face down on her desk, knowing that by now, videos of the confrontation were probably circulating through every social media platform the Ashford students used. At lunch, Maya retreated to the library, the one place where talking was discouraged and she could disappear among the stacks of books. She pulled out the sandwich her mother had made that morning, the kind of simple turkey and cheese on wheat bread that would probably scandalize the students eating catered sushi in the cafeteria. As she ate, she tried to focus on her chemistry homework, but the equations blurred on the page. Mind if I sit here? A voice asked. Maya looked up to find a girl with warm brown skin and natural hair pulled back in a colorful head wrap standing beside the table. She wore the Ashford uniform like everyone else, but something about her seemed different, more relaxed, more genuine. Sure, Maya said quietly, expecting the girl to pull out her laptop and ignore her like most people did in the library. Instead, the girl sat down and extended her hand. I'm Jasmine Edwards. I saw what happened this morning. That was brutal. Are you okay? Maya blinked, surprised by the direct kindness. I'm fine. Thanks. Victoria's a nightmare, Jasmine continued, unpacking her own lunch, a container of what looked like homemade jollof rice. She's been terrorizing people since middle school. Her family basically owns half the school's endowment, so she thinks she's untouchable. She kind of is, isn't she? Maya asked bitterly. I heard she once got caught cheating on a final and nothing happened. Her dad made a donation and suddenly the whole thing disappeared. Jasmine nodded. That sounds about right. But here's the thing, not everyone here is like her. There are actually some decent people at Ashford, even if they're afraid to stand up to Victoria publicly. Are you one of them? Maya asked. Afraid, I mean? Jasmine laughed, a rich, warm sound that made Maya smile despite herself. My dad's a federal judge and my mom's a surgeon. I'm here on merit, not money. Victoria tried her mean girl routine on me freshman year, and I told her exactly where she could shove her attitude. She's mostly left me alone since then. Bullies like her target people they think won't fight back. I don't want to fight, Maya admitted. I just want to survive the year and figure out why my dad insisted I come here in the first place. Why did he? Jasmine asked, taking a bite of her rice. If you don't mind me asking. Maya shrugged. I honestly don't know. We're not poor, exactly, but we're not Ashford rich either. My dad works in tech, does something with software and startups. He's always working, always on his laptop or in meetings. But he's never cared about status or showing off. We live in a normal house in a normal neighborhood. My mom teaches kindergarten. None of this makes sense. Maybe he wants you to have opportunities. Jasmine suggested. Ashford does have incredible college placement rates. And the networking here, as much as I hate to admit it, can open doors. Maybe, Maya said doubtfully. But I was happy where I was. I had friends. I had a life. Now I spend my days being reminded that I don't fit in here. You fit in here just as much as anyone else, Jasmine said firmly. Probably more than Victoria and her clones, honestly. At least you have a personality beyond your parents' bank account. For the first time since starting at Ashford, Maya felt a genuine smile cross her face. Thanks. I'm Maya, by the way. Maya Chen. I know, Jasmine said with a grin. Everyone knows who you are now. You're the girl who stood up to Victoria Ashford Price and didn't back down. That takes guts. Or stupidity, Maya muttered. Sometimes they're the same thing, Jasmine replied. But seriously, if you need someone to eat lunch with or just want to vent about the ridiculousness of this place, I'm your girl. I'm in most of the advanced classes, so we probably have some together. They compared schedules and discovered they shared AP English and Calculus. As the lunch period ended, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in weeks, a small spark of hope. Maybe Ashford Academy wouldn't be completely unbearable. Maybe she could find her place here after all. That fragile hope lasted exactly until she opened her locker after lunch and found it stuffed with garbage, used tissues, food wrappers, and a note written in Victoria's distinctive loopy handwriting, "Trash belongs with trash. Leave before we make you." Maya stared at the mess, feeling tears prick at her eyes. Behind her, she could hear snickering. She turned to see several of Victoria's friends watching from down the hallway, their phones out, recording her reaction. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Maya calmly began pulling the trash out of her locker, depositing it piece by piece into a nearby bin. Her hands shook, but she kept her face neutral, refused to let them see how much it hurt. When her locker was empty, she grabbed her English textbook, closed the door with a controlled click, and walked to class with her head held high. But inside, she was crumbling. How long could she keep this up? How many days of relentless targeting could she endure before she broke down and begged her father to let her transfer back to her old school? That evening, as she sat at the dinner table pushing food around her plate, her father noticed her unusual silence. "How was school today, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice gentle. Maya looked up at him, at his kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, at the premature gray in his black hair, at the worry lines creasing his forehead. "It was fine," she lied. Her father wasn't convinced. David Chen had built his career on reading people, on understanding what they weren't saying as much as what they were. He set down his fork and gave Maya his full attention, a rarity in their household, where his phone was usually buzzing with notifications and his laptop never far from reach. "Maya," he said softly. "I need you to be honest with me. Is something happening at school?" Maya's mother, Linda, also stopped eating, her teacher's intuition clearly sensing the shift in the conversation. "Honey, if something's wrong, you can tell us." For a moment, Maya considered telling them everything, the daily insults, the social isolation, the garbage in her locker, the way Victoria and her friends had made her life a living hell. But what would that accomplish? Her father had insisted she attend Ashford for reasons he still hadn't fully explained. Complaining would only disappoint him, make him think she couldn't handle the pressure. "There are some girls who aren't very nice," Maya finally admitted. "They think I don't belong there because I'm not like them." Her father's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "What kind of not nice?" he asked, his voice carefully controlled. "Just typical mean girl stuff," Maya said, trying to sound casual. "Comments about my clothes, my background. One of them, Victoria Ashford Price, is particularly." "Ashford Price?" Her father's reaction was immediate and sharp. He exchanged a quick glance with her mother, something passing between them that Maya couldn't interpret. "The founder's family?" "Yeah, her great-grandfather started the school or something. She acts like she owns the place." David pushed back from the table abruptly, pulling out his phone. "Excuse me for a moment," he said, already walking toward his home office. "David," her mother called after him, but he was already gone, the office door closing firmly behind him. Linda turned to Maya, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "Your father has been under a lot of stress lately," she said. "There's something he's been meaning to tell you, but the timing has been complicated." "Tell me what?" Maya asked, a thread of anxiety weaving through her chest. "Mom, what's going on? Why did Dad really make me transfer to Ashford?" Her mother opened her mouth to respond, but at that moment, raised voices came from the office. Maya couldn't make out the words, but her father's tone was one she'd rarely heard, cold, sharp, commanding. This wasn't the gentle, soft-spoken man who made terrible jokes at breakfast and fell asleep reading on the couch. This was someone else entirely. When David emerged 15 minutes later, his expression was set in stone. He sat back down at the table, took a deep breath, and looked at his daughter with eyes that seemed to carry a weight Maya had never noticed before. "Maya, I need to tell you something that I should have told you when you started at Ashford," he began. "Actually, I should have told you years ago, but your mother and I decided to give you as normal a childhood as possible, for as long as possible." Maya's heart began to race. "Dad, you're scaring me. You know I work in tech," he continued. "What you don't know is the extent of that work. 15 years ago, I founded a company called Chen Dynamics. It started as a small software startup, just me and two friends working out of a garage. We developed an algorithm for data compression and encryption that revolutionized cloud storage. 5 years later, we went public. The company is now valued at over $40 billion. The words hung in the air like smoke. Maya stared at her father, trying to process what he was saying. 40 billion? "I'm the majority shareholder," David said quietly. "Which makes me, technically, a billionaire several times over. We've kept this private, kept our lives as normal as possible, because I didn't want wealth to define our family or your childhood. I wanted you to grow up understanding the value of hard work, empathy, and genuine human connection." Maya felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. "So when Victoria called me a scholarship student, when everyone assumed I was poor, you were probably the wealthiest person in that hallway," her father finished. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know this is a lot to process. The reason I insisted you transfer to Ashford was because I'm in the process of acquiring several educational technology companies, and Ashford has been on my radar as an acquisition target. I wanted you to experience the school firsthand, to see if it aligned with the values I want to promote in education. I also thought..." He paused, his expression pained. "I thought you might benefit from the academic opportunities there. I didn't anticipate the social dynamics would be so challenging." "Dad," Maya said, her voice barely a whisper. "Victoria Ashford Price has made my life hell for 3 weeks. She called me trash. Her friends put garbage in my locker. And the whole time, you could have..." She stopped, not even sure how to finish that sentence. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "I could have told you the truth," David said, regret heavy in his voice. "I could have given you the power of that knowledge. I was wrong to keep it from you. But Maya, I want you to understand something important. Your worth has never been about money. The fact that Victoria and her friends have treated you this way, despite your family's wealth, proves that true character has nothing to do with bank accounts. They're cruel because they're insecure and small-minded, not because you're actually inferior to them in any way." "So what happens now?" Maya asked. "Do I tell everyone tomorrow that my dad's a billionaire? Does that somehow make the last 3 weeks of humiliation disappear?" "No," her father said firmly. "You don't tell anyone anything. But I am going to handle this situation. No child, my child or anyone else's, should be tormented at school. I'm going to make some changes at Ashford Academy, starting with addressing their culture of bullying and entitled behavior." "How?" Maya asked, though part of her was beginning to understand. Her father's smile was thin and didn't reach his eyes. "I'm going to buy the school." Maya didn't sleep that night. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through the revelations of the evening. Her father, her quiet, unassuming father who drove a 7-year-old Toyota and wore the same 3 rotating sweaters, was a billionaire. The man who'd taught her to clip coupons and comparison shop was worth more money than she could even conceptualize. Every memory from her childhood suddenly took on a different shade. The business trips that kept him away for days at a time weren't just regular work travel, he was probably closing deals worth millions of dollars. The modest 3-bedroom house they lived in wasn't all they could afford, it was a deliberate choice. Her parents' insistence on public school, on summer jobs, on her saving her allowance, all of it had been orchestrated to keep her grounded, to shield her from the very world she'd been thrust into at Ashford Academy. And now, that world had chewed her up and spit her out, not knowing they were attacking someone who could buy and sell most of their families several times over. The irony was almost funny. Almost. When Maya came down to breakfast the next morning, her father was already on his 3rd cup of coffee, his laptop open, his phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking in Mandarin, something he only did during serious business calls, and his tone carried an edge of steel she'd never heard before. Her mother was making pancakes, but her movements were distracted, worried. She gave Maya a tight smile when she entered the kitchen. "Your father's been up since 4 a.m., Linda said quietly. "He's already spoken with 3 different law firms and his board of directors." "Is he really going to do it?" Maya asked, pouring herself orange juice. "By Ashford Academy?" "When your father sets his mind to something, there's very little that can stop him," her mother replied. "That's how he built his company from nothing. That's how he convinced me to marry him after I said no 3 times." She smiled at the memory, but it faded quickly. "Maya, I need you to understand that the next few weeks are going to be complicated. Once word gets out about who your father is, everything will change. The way people treat you, the way they see you. Maybe they'll finally leave me alone," Maya said bitterly. "Or maybe they'll want something from you," her mother countered gently. "Wealth attracts all kinds of attention, honey. Not all of it good. Your father and I tried to protect you from that for as long as we could." David ended his call and closed his laptop, turning his full attention to his family. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, but there was a fierce determination in them that Maya had never witnessed. "It's done," he said simply. "I've made an offer to acquire Ashford Academy. Given the school's current financial situation and some strategic pressure I'm able to apply through my connections on their board, I expect they'll accept within the week." "What kind of financial situation?" Maya asked, her journalistic curiosity, inherited from her father, kicking in. "Ashford has been operating at a loss for the past 3 years, David explained, slipping into his business mode. Their endowment has been poorly managed, they've lost several major donors due to various scandals, and their facilities need extensive updating to meet modern educational standards. They've been surviving on their reputation and legacy admissions, but that's not sustainable. They need an influx of capital and modern management. I'm offering both." "And the Ashford family is just going to let you take over their legacy?" Maya asked skeptically. Her father's smile was cold. "The Ashford family hasn't been meaningfully involved in running the school for 2 generations. They show up for ribbon cuttings and galas, but the actual administration has been handled by a board of directors, a board I've been quietly building relationships with for the past 6 months. 3 of the 7 members owe their positions to investments I made in their companies. 2 more are reasonable people who care more about the school's future than preserving a toxic status quo. The remaining 2 can be outvoted." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. This was corporate warfare, playing out because someone had made fun of her shoes. "Dad, this seems extreme. I can just transfer back to Lincoln." "No," David said firmly. "This isn't just about you anymore, sweetheart. Do you know how many complaints Ashford Academy has received about bullying in the past 5 years? 73 formal complaints. Do you know how many resulted in meaningful consequences for the students involved? 0. Not a single one. The school has a systemic problem with entitled, cruel behavior, and it stems from the top down. If I'm going to invest in education, which has always been my long-term plan, I'm going to do it right. What about Victoria? Maya asked quietly. And her family? The Ashford Price family has significant social capital but surprisingly little actual financial stake in the school, David replied. They're prominent donors, yes, but they don't control the board. Victoria's father, Richard, is used to throwing his weight around and having everyone bow to his demands. He's about to learn that money doesn't always translate to power, especially when someone with more of both decides to push back. Maya pushed her pancakes around her plate, her appetite gone. When does all this happen? The offer is on the table now. I've given them 72 hours to respond. In the meantime, you go to school, you hold your head high, and you remember that your worth has nothing to do with what Victoria Ashford Price thinks of you. What if she makes things worse? Maya asked. Once she finds out. She won't find out from us, David interrupted. The acquisition will be handled through my company. Your connection to me will remain private unless you choose to reveal it. And Maya, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about revenge or humiliating anyone. This is about creating an environment where students like you, students from all backgrounds, can learn and grow without fear of harassment. If Victoria and her friends can learn to be better people, they'll have a place at the new Ashford Academy. If they can't, they'll find themselves facing real consequences for their actions for the first time in their lives. As Maya gathered her things for school, she caught sight of her reflection in the hallway mirror. She looked the same as she had yesterday, same dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, same minimal makeup, same worn canvas sneakers that had started this whole mess. But something inside her had shifted. She wasn't just Maya Chen, the awkward new girl who didn't fit in. She was Maya Chen, daughter of David Chen, whose company had revolutionized data storage and whose business acumen was legendary in tech circles. Not that anyone at Ashford knew that. Yet. The atmosphere at Ashford Academy that Thursday morning felt different, though Maya couldn't immediately pinpoint why. There was an unusual buzz in the hallways, clusters of students huddled together in animated conversation, their voices dropping to whispers when teachers passed. Maya caught fragments as she made her way to her locker. Emergency board meeting, major announcement, something big. Victoria and her crew were holding court near the main staircase, as usual. But today, even they seemed distracted, less focused on tormenting others and more absorbed in whatever gossip was circulating through the school's upper echelons. Did you hear? Jasmine appeared at Maya's elbow, her eyes bright with excitement. My mom was talking to one of the board members last night. Apparently, some tech company made an offer to buy the school. The board called an emergency meeting for tonight. Maya's heart skipped. It had been less than 24 hours since her father made his offer. Things were moving even faster than he'd predicted. Do they know who made the offer? She asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Some company called Chen Dynamics, Jasmine said. I'd never heard of them, but my mom says they're huge in the tech world. Their CEO is supposed to be some reclusive genius who rarely makes public appearances. Very low profile, very strategic. If he's interested in Ashford, it probably means he sees potential here. Or problems that need fixing, Maya murmured. That too, Jasmine agreed. Honestly, this place could use a shake-up. Maybe someone from outside the old money bubble will actually care about things like merit and fairness instead of just pedigree and donations. Before Maya could respond, Victoria's voice cut across the hallway. Well, if it isn't the charity case. I see you're still wearing those pathetic shoes. Didn't your scholarship include a stipend for proper footwear? Maya turned slowly, meeting Victoria's gaze with a calmness that surprised even herself. After last night's revelations, Victoria's petty cruelty felt almost quaint. They're comfortable, Maya said evenly. And they serve their purpose. Their purpose being to embarrass everyone around you? Brittany chimed in, earning laughs from the group. Their purpose being to get me where I need to go, Maya replied. Unlike some people, I don't need my shoes to do my talking for me. Victoria's eyes narrowed dangerously. She took a step toward Maya, and for a moment, the hallway held its collective breath. But before she could launch into whatever cutting remarks she'd prepared, a voice interrupted from behind them. Miss Ashford Price, Miss Chen, the headmaster would like to see both of you in his office. Mrs. Patterson, the headmaster's secretary, stood at the end of the hallway, her expression unreadable. Immediately, please. Victoria's confidence faltered for just a second before she recovered. Of course, she said smoothly, flipping her hair over her shoulder. I'm sure this is about the gala committee. Come along, scholarship girl. Try not to embarrass yourself in front of Headmaster Pemberton. Maya followed them down the hallway, her mind racing. Why would the headmaster want to see both of them together? Had someone finally reported the harassment? Or was this about something else entirely? Headmaster Pemberton's office was exactly what one would expect from a century-old institution: dark wood paneling, leather chairs, and walls lined with photographs of distinguished alumni dating back to the school's founding. The headmaster himself sat behind an enormous mahogany desk, his silver hair immaculately styled, his expression grave. But he wasn't alone. Two men in expensive suits sat in the chairs facing his desk, and standing by the window was someone who made Maya's heart stop, her father. Thank you for coming, ladies, Headmaster Pemberton said, his voice strained. Please, have a seat. Miss Ashford Price, I believe you know your father. Miss Chen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. David Chen, CEO of Chen Dynamics. Victoria glanced between Maya and David with confusion. I don't understand. Why is she here for a board meeting? Because she's my daughter, David said quietly, his eyes on Maya with a mixture of apology and resolve. The color drained from Victoria's face. Your daughter? My daughter, David confirmed. The same daughter who you've been systematically harassing for the past 3 weeks. The same daughter whose shoes you've repeatedly mocked, whose locker you've filled with garbage, and who you've tried to humiliate at every opportunity. Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Her father, Richard Ashford Price, a florid man with a pronounced sense of entitlement radiating from every pore, cleared his throat. Now see here, Pemberton. I don't know what kind of accusations are being leveled, but my Victoria would never. There's video evidence, one of the suited men interrupted. He was younger than the others, with sharp eyes and an air of quiet authority. Multiple incidents, all documented by other students and posted on social media. We have witness statements from several faculty members as well. The pattern of harassment is clear and undeniable. Who are you? Richard demanded. James Wu, General Counsel for Chen Dynamics, the man replied coolly. As of this morning, Chen Dynamics is the majority stakeholder in Ashford Academy. The board accepted Mr. Chen's acquisition offer at 8 a.m. I'm here to ensure that the transition proceeds smoothly and that all outstanding issues, including this harassment situation, are properly addressed. The room went silent. Victoria looked like she might faint. Richard's face had gone from florid to purple. This is absurd, Richard sputtered. You can't just buy a school and start making accusations. I can and I have, David said, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable weight of authority. And to be clear, Mr. Ashford Price, I'm not making accusations. I'm stating facts that are thoroughly documented. Your daughter has created a hostile environment for mine and, from what I'm learning, for numerous other students over the years. Headmaster Pemberton looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past 10 minutes. He cleared his throat nervously, his earlier authority completely evaporated in the presence of the school's new owner. Mr. Chen, I assure you that Ashford Academy has always taken bullying allegations seriously. Have you? David's question was sharp. Because I have a file here, he gestured to James Wu, who produced a tablet, containing 73 formal complaints about bullying submitted to this school over the past 5 years. 73 complaints, Headmaster Pemberton. And in every single case, the wealthy or well-connected students involved received minimal or no consequences. Would you like me to read through them? The headmaster's silence was answer enough. Richard Ashford Price recovered enough to bluster forward. This is a vendetta. You're targeting my daughter because of some schoolyard disagreement. I'm addressing a systemic failure of leadership, David corrected. Your daughter is simply the most recent and visible example. But let me be absolutely clear, this isn't about revenge or persecution. This is about creating an educational environment based on merit, respect, and genuine excellence, not on who your parents are or how much money they donate. Victoria finally found her voice, though it came out small and shaky. Mr. Chen, I didn't know. I didn't know who Maya was. And that's precisely the problem, David interrupted, his tone gentler but still firm. You should have treated Maya with respect regardless of who her father is or what her financial background might be. The fact that you mocked her for her shoes, called her trash, and systematically tried to humiliate her speaks to your character, not hers. The fact that you're only showing remorse now that you know about my wealth and position speaks volumes. Maya watched Victoria's face crumble, watched the confident queen bee of Ashford Academy reduced to a scared teenager who'd finally encountered consequences for her actions. Part of Maya felt vindicated, triumphant even. But another part, the part her parents had carefully cultivated over 15 years, felt something closer to pity. Dad, Maya said quietly, speaking for the first time since entering the office. Everyone turned to look at her. Can I say something? David nodded, giving her the floor. Maya took a deep breath and looked directly at Victoria. You made my life miserable for 3 weeks. You mocked me, degraded me, and tried to make me feel worthless. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. But here's what you need to understand. I would have been worthy of respect even if my dad wasn't a billionaire. Even if I really was on scholarship. Even if I came from the poorest family in the city. Your cruelty wasn't wrong because you happened to target someone wealthy. It was wrong because cruelty is always wrong. Victoria's eyes filled with tears, but Maya continued, finding strength in her words. I don't want you expelled or publicly humiliated, even though you tried to do that to me. But I do want you to understand something, the shoes you mocked. They're from a brand that donates a pair to a child in need for every pair purchased. They're comfortable, practical, and they represent values my parents taught me, values about thinking beyond yourself and helping others. They're worth more than any designer label, not because of their price tag, but because of what they stand for. The office was silent. Even Richard Ashford Price seemed momentarily speechless. David looked at his daughter with unmistakable pride. Well said, sweetheart. He turned back to Headmaster Pemberton. Here's what's going to happen. Effective immediately, Ashford Academy will implement a comprehensive anti-bullying program, including mandatory workshops for all students, a confidential reporting system with real consequences, and regular reviews of school culture. Headmaster Pemberton, you'll work with my team to develop these programs, and we'll be bringing in expert consultants to ensure they're effective. As for Miss Ashford Price, David continued, looking at Victoria directly, she'll serve a 1-week suspension, which is actually far less severe than what many of the students in those 73 complaints deserved. She'll also complete 50 hours of community service and attend counseling sessions focused on empathy and ethical behavior. If there are any further incidents of harassment from her or her friend group, the consequences will escalate significantly, including potential expulsion. Richard started to object, but David cut him off. Mr. Ashford Price, let me be very clear. Your family's legacy at this school is noted and respected. But legacy doesn't grant immunity from basic standards of human decency. Your daughter can choose to learn from this experience and become a better person, or she can continue down her current path and find herself at a different school entirely. The choice is hers. He stood, signaling the meeting was over. Headmaster Pemberton, I'll expect a detailed implementation plan for the new anti-bullying initiatives on my desk by Monday. Mr. Wu will be serving as my liaison with the school administration during this transition period. He has my full authority to make necessary changes. As they filed out of the office, Victoria caught Maya's arm in the hallway, gently this time, not with the bruising grip from before. Maya, she started, then seemed to struggle with words she'd probably never had to say before. I'm sorry. Really sorry. I was horrible to you, and you didn't deserve any of it. Maya studied her for a moment. The apology seemed genuine, born from genuine shock and shame rather than just fear of consequences. Apology noted, she said carefully. But Victoria, you need to apologize to everyone you've hurt, not just me. And you need to actually change, not just say you will. Victoria nodded, tears streaming down her face now. I will. I promise I will. As Maya walked away, Jasmine was waiting by her locker, her eyes wide. Oh my God. Oh my God. Your dad bought the school? Your dad is David Chen. The David Chen? Maya couldn't help but laugh at her friend's expression. Surprise? By lunch, the news had spread through Ashford Academy like wildfire. Maya Chen wasn't just some random transfer student, she was the daughter of David Chen, the tech billionaire who had just acquired their school. The same girl they'd whispered about, the same girl whose shoes had been mocked, whose locker had been vandalized, was connected to more wealth and power than most of their families could even comprehend. The cafeteria fell silent when Maya entered with Jasmine. Hundreds of eyes tracked her movement across the room. The sushi bar, the salad station, the gourmet pizza counter, everything seemed to freeze in time. Maya felt her face flush, her instinct screaming at her to turn around and hide in the library like she'd been doing for weeks. Head up, Jasmine whispered beside her. You've got this. They got their lunch, Maya still choosing her simple turkey sandwich from the regular line, despite now having access to anything she wanted, and sat at their usual table in the corner. Within minutes, they were surrounded. Maya, hi. I'm Sophie from your chemistry class. I was wondering if maybe you'd want to study together sometime. A girl with perfectly styled auburn hair and an eager smile hovered beside their table. Maya, my parents are having a charity gala next month, and I'd love for you to come. Another voice, this one belonging to a boy Maya recognized from calculus but who had never acknowledged her existence before. Is it true your dad invented cloud storage? Did he really buy the whole school? Can I get your number? The questions came rapid fire, overwhelming in their sudden friendliness. These were the same students who had walked past her in the hallways, who had snickered when Victoria made her cruel comments, who had recorded her humiliation on their phones. Now they wanted to be her friend, wanted access to her world, wanted to be associated with the Chen name and all it represented. Everyone, back off. Jasmine stood up, her voice cutting through the chaos. Maya is trying to eat her lunch. Give her some space. Reluctantly, the crowd dispersed, though Maya could feel their eyes on her from across the cafeteria, could see them whispering and glancing in her direction. This is going to be my life now, isn't it? Maya said quietly, her appetite completely gone. Probably, Jasmine admitted. At least until the novelty wears off. People are shallow, especially here. Yesterday you weren't worth their time. Today you're the most interesting person in school. Tomorrow, who knows? But hey, at least Victoria and her minions will leave you alone now. As if summoned by her name, Maya spotted Victoria sitting at her usual table, but the dynamic had completely shifted. Her friends were still there, but the energy was different. Brittany and Madison were engaged in an animated conversation that Victoria wasn't part of. Sienna was on her phone, barely acknowledging Victoria's presence. The queen bee had been dethroned, and her court was already redistributing power. Victoria caught Maya looking and quickly glanced away, her shoulders hunched in a way that was completely foreign to her usual confident posture. I almost feel bad for her, Maya murmured. Don't, Jasmine said firmly. She created this situation. Actions have consequences. She's learning that lesson the hard way, but it's a lesson she needed to learn. I know, but, Maya paused, trying to articulate the complicated feelings churning inside her. My dad always taught me that revenge doesn't fix anything. That being cruel to someone who was cruel to you just perpetuates the cycle. I wanted her to face consequences, but I didn't want to become someone who enjoys watching other people suffer. Jasmine regarded her with new respect. You know, most people in your position would be doing a victory lap right now. The fact that you're not says a lot about who you are. Your parents did something right, billionaire status aside. The rest of the school day was a surreal experience. Teachers who had barely noticed Maya before suddenly knew her name, called on her in class, smiled warmly when she entered the room. The vice principal stopped her in the hallway to ask how she was adjusting to Ashford. Even the cafeteria staff gave her extra portions and warmer smiles. It was exhausting. By the time the final bell rang, Maya was desperate to escape. She texted her mother that she'd walk home, a luxury of living only 2 miles from school, and slipped out a side entrance to avoid the crowd of students who seemed determined to talk to her. She'd made it about 3 blocks when she heard footsteps hurrying behind her. "Maya, wait." She turned to find Victoria jogging to catch up, still in her Ashford uniform, her designer bag bouncing against her hip. Maya's first instinct was to keep walking, but something in Victoria's expression made her pause. "What do you want, Victoria?" Maya asked, not unkindly but not warmly either. Victoria stopped a few feet away, breathing hard. Up close, without her armor of makeup and confidence, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "I wanted to apologize again. Properly this time, not in the headmaster's office with everyone watching." "Okay," Maya said simply, waiting. "I was horrible to you," Victoria continued, the words tumbling out quickly like she was afraid she'd lose her nerve if she slowed down. "I was cruel and petty and I made your life miserable for no good reason. And the worst part is, you weren't even the first person I treated that way. There have been others over the years, people I targeted because I could, because I thought it made me more powerful or more important." She paused, wiping at her eyes. "Today was the first time in my life that I've faced real consequences for my actions. My dad tried to fix it, he called in favors, threatened to pull donations, but it didn't work. Your father didn't care about any of that. And honestly, I'm glad. I needed someone to finally stand up to me." Maya studied her carefully, looking for signs of manipulation or insincerity. But Victoria's tears seemed genuine, her remorse real. "Why were you so mean to me?" Maya asked. "What did I ever do to you?" Victoria laughed bitterly. "Nothing. That's the thing. You didn't do anything except exist in a space I'd decided was mine. You came in with your quiet confidence, not caring about the things I'd built my entire identity around, designer clothes, the right brands, the proper social connections. You threatened me without even trying because you proved that none of that stuff actually matters. That's terrifying when those superficial things are all you think you have." "You have more than that," Maya said quietly. "I've seen you in AP English. You're brilliant when you actually engage with the material instead of passing notes with Brittany. And I've heard you play piano during assemblies. You're genuinely talented." Victoria looked surprised, like she'd forgotten she had qualities beyond her family name and social status. "Really?" "Really," Maya confirmed. "But Victoria, being talented or smart doesn't give you the right to hurt other people. And apologizing is just the first step. You need to actually change how you treat people." "I know," Victoria said. "I'm going to. I'm starting therapy next week, real therapy, not just the counseling your dad mandated. And I'm going to apologize to everyone I've hurt. I made a list. It's longer than I thought it would be." Maya felt something soften in her chest. "That's good. That's really good." They walked together in silence for a few minutes, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the suburban sidewalks. It was strange, Maya thought, walking beside someone who had made her life hell just days ago, feeling something almost like compassion for her. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said hesitantly. "And you can totally tell me it's none of my business." "Sure," Maya replied. "Why didn't you tell everyone who you were from the start? You could have walked in on day one with the Chen name and everyone would have treated you like royalty. Instead, you let us mock you, humiliate you, treat you like you were nothing. Why?" Maya considered the question carefully. "Because I wanted people to see me for who I am, not what my last name represents. I wanted to know who would be kind to me when they thought I had nothing to offer them. It sounds naive now, but I genuinely believed that people at Ashford might be different, might care about things beyond money and status. And we proved you wrong," Victoria said sadly. Some of you did, Maya corrected. But not everyone. Jasmine was kind to me before she knew anything about my family. There were a few teachers who treated me fairly from day one. Mr. Harrison, the vice principal, actually intervened when you grabbed me in the hallway, remember? Not everyone here is superficial. Just most of us, Victoria muttered. Maybe, Maya acknowledged. But people can change. You're changing right now, aren't you? Victoria nodded slowly. I'm trying. It's harder than I thought it would be. When I got home yesterday after the meeting with your dad, I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the person looking back. I've spent so long building this persona, the untouchable, powerful, feared Victoria Ashford Price, that I forgot there was supposed to be an actual person underneath all that. They reached the corner where their paths would diverge. Victoria lived in the gated community to the north. Maya's house was to the south in a regular neighborhood with modest homes and minivans and driveways. Thank you for listening, Victoria said. You didn't have to. You could have kept walking or told me to get lost, and I would have deserved it. Everyone deserves a chance to make things right, Maya said. Just don't waste it. I won't, Victoria promised. And Maya? Those shoes you wear? I looked them up last night. The whole one-for-one donation program, the sustainable materials, the fair labor practices. They're actually really cool. I ordered a pair for myself. I figured if I'm going to change, I should start with literally walking in someone else's shoes. Maya couldn't help but smile at that. That's very literal. Yeah, well, subtlety was never my strong suit, Victoria said with a small, self-deprecating laugh. See you Monday? See you Monday, Maya confirmed. When Maya got home, she found both her parents in the living room, clearly waiting for her. Her mother jumped up immediately, pulling her into a tight hug. How is it? Linda asked, studying her daughter's face with concern. Are you okay? Did anyone give you trouble? It was weird, Maya admitted, sinking into the couch. Everyone suddenly wants to be my friend. People who wouldn't look at me last week were practically fighting for my attention today. And Victoria Ashford Price actually apologized to me. Like, a real apology. David set aside his laptop, a rare occurrence, and gave Maya his full attention. I'm sorry that you're having to navigate all this, sweetheart. Your mother and I debated for years about when and how to tell you about the family's financial situation. We always knew it would be complicated, but I never imagined it would happen like this. Why now? Maya asked. Why did you suddenly decide I needed to go to Ashford? You could have kept me at Lincoln, kept our lives normal. Her father sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. Several reasons. First, I genuinely believe Ashford has superior academic resources that will help you get into a top university. Second, I've been planning to expand into educational technology for years, and acquiring a prestigious school like Ashford was always part of that strategy. But mostly, he looked at her with deep sincerity. I wanted you to see firsthand what wealth and privilege look like when they're not tempered by values and character. I wanted you to understand that having money doesn't make someone better or more worthy of respect. Mission accomplished, Maya said dryly. I definitely learned that lesson. I know it was hard, her mother said, taking Maya's hand. But you handled it with grace and dignity. You didn't stoop to their level, didn't use your father's wealth as a weapon, didn't seek revenge. You stayed true to yourself, and that's everything we hoped you would do. It didn't feel graceful, Maya admitted. It felt awful. There were days I cried in the bathroom during lunch. Days I wanted to quit, to beg you to let me go back to my old school. Why didn't you? Her father asked gently. Maya thought about it. Because you taught me not to run away from hard things. Because I knew there had to be a reason you wanted me there, even if I didn't understand it yet. And because. She paused, because I didn't want Victoria to win. I didn't want to prove her right, that I didn't belong there. You belong there more than any of them, David said firmly. Not because of money or status, but because you have something most of those kids lack, character, empathy, and genuine strength. Those qualities matter infinitely more than the size of someone's bank account. So what happens now? Maya asked. To the school, I mean. Are you going to change everything? David smiled. Would you like to be part of that conversation? You're the student there. You know firsthand what needs to change and what's worth preserving. I could use your insights. Maya felt a spark of excitement. Really? You'd actually listen to my ideas? Of course, her father said. In fact, I'm forming a student advisory council to provide input on the changes we're implementing. I'd like you to be part of it, along with a diverse group of students from different backgrounds and perspectives. Real change can't happen from the top down alone. It needs input from the people who will actually be affected by it. Over the weekend, Maya threw herself into research. If her father was serious about giving her a voice in reshaping Ashford Academy, she wanted to make sure that voice was informed and thoughtful. She created a detailed document outlining issues she'd observed in her short time at the school and potential solutions. The list was longer than she expected. The bullying problem wasn't just about individual mean students, it was systemic, woven into the school's culture through decades of protecting wealthy families and prioritizing donations over student welfare. The academic pressure was intense but often misdirected, focused more on prestigious college admissions than actual learning. The student body lacked diversity, economic, racial, and ideological. There was no meaningful community service requirement, nothing to connect these privileged students with the broader world beyond their bubble. But there were good things too, exceptional teachers who genuinely cared about their subjects, state-of-the-art facilities that could enable amazing learning experiences, a strong academic foundation that, if redirected slightly, could produce not just successful students but thoughtful, engaged citizens. On Sunday evening, her father reviewed her document, his expression growing more impressed with each page. This is excellent work, Maya. Thorough, thoughtful, balanced. You've identified core issues I hadn't even considered. Years of being an outsider looking in, Maya said with a slight smile. You see things differently when you're not part of the inner circle. That perspective is invaluable, David agreed. I want you to present this to the advisory council when we meet next week. In fact, I think you should chair the council. What do you think? Maya's eyes widened. Dad, I just started at this school. Nobody's going to want to take direction from me. They'll respect you because you're not afraid to speak truth to power, her father countered. You've already proven that. Besides, leadership isn't about being the most popular person in the room. It's about having a clear vision and the courage to pursue it, even when it's difficult. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Maya chose her outfit carefully, her Ashford uniform, required, but she made a deliberate choice about her shoes. Instead of the worn canvas sneakers that had started everything, she wore the new pair that Victoria had mentioned ordering. If this was going to be a fresh start, she might as well commit to it. The school felt different as she walked through the main entrance. There was still curiosity in the eyes that followed her, still whispers in her wake, but the energy had shifted. Less mockery, more genuine interest. Less judgment, more respect, though Maya wasn't naive enough to think all of it was sincere. A poster by the main office caught her attention, Student Advisory Council, applications open. Help shape Ashford's future. Below it was information about the council's purpose and how to apply. Already making moves, I see, Jasmine said, appearing beside her. Are you applying? My dad wants me to chair it, Maya admitted. But I'm not sure that's a good idea. People already think I'm getting special treatment because of who my father is. Are you getting special treatment? Jasmine asked pointedly. Maya considered the question honestly. I don't think so. He genuinely wants student input, and I happen to have a lot of ideas because I've been thinking about these issues. But yeah, I can see how it looks. So make it transparent, Jasmine suggested. Apply like everyone else. Let there be a selection process. If you're chosen, it's because you deserve it, not because of your last name. Maya nodded slowly. That's actually a good idea. I'm full of them, Jasmine said with a grin. Also, I'm applying too. Someone needs to keep you honest if you do end up in charge. In AP English that morning, Maya noticed several changes. Victoria sat in a different seat, no longer surrounded by Brittany and Madison. She participated in the class discussion about The Great Gatsby, offering insightful comments about wealth and moral corruption that surprised even Mr. Cooper, the teacher. During lunch, the cafeteria was still buzzing with energy, but it felt less predatory than it had on Friday. Maya and Jasmine were joined at their table by 3 other students: Marcus, a scholarship student who'd been at Ashford for 2 years, Priya, whose parents were both doctors but who'd always felt on the periphery of the school's social hierarchy, and Daniel, a quiet kid who excelled in robotics but had struggled to fit in with the more athletically focused popular crowd. "Is it true you're starting a student council to change the school?" Marcus asked, his tone cautiously hopeful. "My father is," Maya corrected. "But he wants actual student input, not just token representation. It's going to be a real council with real influence over policy decisions." "That would be amazing," Priya said. "I've been trying to start a cultural diversity club for 2 years, but the administration always finds reasons to deny it. They say it would be divisive or that there isn't enough interest." "That's exactly the kind of issue the council should address," Maya said, pulling out her phone to make a note. "What else? What are the things you'd change about Ashford if you could?" The conversation that followed was energizing. Each person at the table had experienced different aspects of Ashford's problematic culture: the way merit scholarships were whispered about like shameful secrets, the lack of mental health resources despite enormous academic pressure, the way certain sports got massive funding while arts programs struggled, the absence of any real community connection beyond fundraising galas where rich people congratulated themselves for writing checks. "You know what the weirdest thing is?" Daniel said quietly. "We have all this money, all these resources, but I don't think most students here are actually happy. They're stressed about maintaining their status, terrified of falling behind, performing for parents and teachers and each other. It's exhausting." "That's going in the document," Maya said, typing rapidly. "School should be about learning and growth, not just competition and performance." By the end of lunch, Maya had filled several pages of notes. She also had the beginning of what felt like an actual friend group, people who saw her as Maya, not just as David Chen's daughter or the girl who'd been bullied by Victoria Ashford Price. As they were leaving the cafeteria, Victoria approached the table. The conversations around them quieted immediately, everyone watching to see what would happen. "Maya," Victoria said, her voice steady but humble. "I wanted you to know that I submitted an application for the advisory council. Not because I think I deserve a spot, but because I want to be part of fixing the problems I helped create. If you don't think that's appropriate, I understand." Maya studied her for a moment. Victoria's transformation wasn't complete, that would take time, but she was trying. That had to count for something. "Everyone who's serious about making Ashford better should apply," Maya said. "The selection will be fair and based on merit. If you're chosen, it'll be because your ideas and commitment earned you that spot." Victoria nodded, looking relieved. "Thank you. That's fair." As she walked away, Jasmine leaned over and whispered, "Character development in real time. Never thought I'd see the day." Maya smiled. "People can change. Sometimes they just need the right motivation." 3 months later, Ashford Academy looked almost the same from the outside: same imposing brick facade, same manicured lawns, same sense of institutional prestige. But inside, everything had changed. Maya stood at the front of the Student Advisory Council meeting room, looking at the faces gathered around the large conference table. The council had been selected through a rigorous application process overseen by an independent committee, and the final group represented a genuine cross-section of the student body: athletes and artists, legacy students and scholarship recipients, introverts and extroverts, students from diverse cultural and economic backgrounds. Victoria was there, having earned her spot through a compelling essay about privilege, accountability, and the responsibility of those with power to create positive change. Marcus and Priya had been selected as well, along with 8 other students whose passion for improving Ashford had shown through their applications. "Okay, everyone," Maya said, calling the meeting to order. "Let's review the progress we've made and discuss next steps." She pulled up a presentation on the screen. The list of accomplishments was impressive. The new anti-bullying program was fully implemented, with confidential reporting systems and real consequences for harassment. Already, incident reports were down by 60%, and student satisfaction surveys showed marked improvement in how safe students felt at school. The diversity initiative had launched, including need-based scholarships funded by Chen Dynamics that would bring in 20 new students from underrepresented backgrounds next year. Priya's Cultural Diversity Club was thriving, with over 50 members and regular events celebrating different heritages. Mental health resources had been expanded dramatically, with 3 full-time counselors now on staff and mandatory wellness curriculum integrated into the schedule. The curriculum itself was being reformed to emphasize critical thinking and real-world application over rote memorization and test prep. Community service was now a graduation requirement, with students partnering with local organizations to address genuine needs. The biggest change, Maya continued, is something harder to quantify but easier to feel. The culture here is shifting. Students are kinder to each other. There's less emphasis on competition and more on collaboration. People from different social circles are actually talking to each other. "It's not perfect yet," Jasmine added from her seat as vice chair. "We still have work to do. But we're moving in the right direction." Victoria raised her hand. "I want to propose something for next semester. A peer mentorship program where upperclassmen are paired with new students to help them navigate Ashford. If something like that had existed when Maya arrived, maybe." She trailed off, but everyone understood what she meant. "That's an excellent idea," Maya said, making a note. "Can you draft a proposal for the next meeting?" Victoria nodded, looking pleased. After the meeting adjourned, Maya walked through the hallways of Ashford Academy, observing the changes with a sense of quiet satisfaction. In the main corridor, a new display showcased student achievements, not just athletic trophies and academic awards, but also community service projects, artistic creations, and stories of personal growth. Her father was waiting by the main entrance, having come for the monthly check-in he did with Headmaster Pemberton. He smiled when he saw Maya approaching. "How was the council meeting?" David asked. "Productive," Maya replied. "We're making real progress, Dad. The school feels different now." "It does," he agreed. "And a lot of that is because of you. You've shown real leadership these past few months, Maya. I'm proud of you." They walked out together into the crisp late autumn air. Maya's canvas sneakers, she alternated between her old ones and the new pair now, crunched on fallen leaves. "Do you regret it?" her father asked. "Going through everything you went through when you first started here?" Maya thought about it carefully. "I regret that bullying exists, that people like Victoria felt entitled to treat others cruelly. I regret that so many students suffered in silence because the system protected their tormentors. But do I regret my experience specifically? No. It taught me something important." "What's that?" "That real strength isn't about money or status or power," Maya said. "It's about staying true to your values when it would be easier not to. It's about treating people with dignity even when they don't treat you that way. It's about using whatever privilege you have to lift others up, not to push them down." David stopped walking and turned to face his daughter. "That's exactly the lesson your mother and I hoped you'd learn. Not because we wanted you to suffer, but because we knew that understanding the difference between having wealth and having character would define who you become as an adult." "I think I'm still figuring that out," Maya admitted. "But I'm grateful for parents who gave me the tools to do it." As they reached the car, Maya glanced back at Ashford Academy. Through the windows, she could see students moving through the hallways, talking, laughing, studying together. Some of them would go on to inherit fortunes and run companies. Others would become teachers, artists, public servants, or pursue paths their parents never imagined. But hopefully, all of them would leave Ashford with something more valuable than academic credentials or social connections. Hopefully, they'd leave with empathy, integrity, and the understanding that true worth has nothing to do with the shoes you wear. Maya smiled to herself, thinking about how far she'd come from that first humiliating day when Victoria had mocked her footwear. Those scuffed canvas sneakers had become a symbol, not of poverty or inferiority, but of values that mattered more than any designer label ever could. Her phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "Thanks for believing I could change. You didn't have to, but you did. It made all the difference." Maya typed back, "Everyone deserves a second chance. Just keep being better every day." As her father started the car, Maya looked down at her shoes one more time. They were just shoes, after all, practical, comfortable, meaningful in their simplicity. But they'd carried her through one of the hardest experiences of her life and brought her out the other side stronger, wiser, and more certain of who she was. Sometimes, she reflected, the most important journeys don't require fancy footwear. They just require the courage to keep walking forward, one step at a time. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.